Hello and welcome back to the channel. I don't usually do the speak to the audience kinds of videos while I'm flying, but today is a special day. So I am here in the Tomcat on the Hoggett training server, and while that's not unusual, I'm rocking a new RX 6700 XT for my video card. Now, I was apprehensive about going to a Radeon. I've always bought NVIDIA, but the deals, the Black Friday deals and the Cyber Monday deals that are going on, the value proposition was just too much for me to at least not give it a try. So here we are. Let's go to our startup, get in the air, and see how it does. So I do have VSync enabled. So if we load up our little FPS display, I have my display locked to 60 Hertz. Now the point here is not to push up big FPS numbers, but rather to just maintain that steady 60 Hertz, because that's great for YouTube, because I only capture, depending on what I'm doing, in 30 or 60 FPS anyway. So for the YouTube thing, 60 FPS is really all you need. You're just wasting GPU cycles over that, especially after the YouTube compression. So thanks to a deal on a new SSD, I got a bigger SSD to record my videos with, so I can do native 1080p. I did some experimenting with the AMD encoder, and what I discovered is it is every bit as bad as they say it is. The videos compared to the same settings in OBS Studio, they looked terrible compared to what I got with my NVIDIA card. But that's not the end of the world, because I have a 5800X AMD Ryzen, and that has enough overhead even while I'm playing games to support CPU encoding. So I can just capture at my native resolution and the videos are fine, and it doesn't affect my gameplay at all. Just looking around here, it's pretty smooth. One thing I did have to do, I thought that it was my video card causing me a little bit of stuttering. I thought it was just my old video card, but I still saw stuttering even with this relative powerhouse that I have in here now. And I'm at 1080p, so this should not be anything hard for the RX 6700 XT to handle. This should be quite easy, even at elevated settings. And you can see I'm maintaining a steady 60 FPS down there with the FPS counter in the bottom right screen. And that's what I expect to see. I don't expect to see that fluctuate a lot. What I ended up having to do to get rid of the stuttering was to move my installation folder to a faster SSD. What I was seeing, the stuttering, after trying many settings, many advice things I saw on forums, just moving it to my fastest NVMe SSD got rid of the stuttering. I believe what it was loading lag. It was trying to load in textures and things, and it could not, for whatever reason. I could not do it quickly off of the SSD that I had it installed on. It's fine for every other game that I play, including Microsoft Flight Simulator and other like non-flight sim games. It's fine, but for DCS for whatever reason just hates that SSD, and DCS is just kind of a hog in every way that it can be. It wants lots of GPU, it wants lots of CPU, it wants lots of RAM, and it wants super fast disk access. So that's just how DCS is, I guess. Alright, so we've cleared the hangar. Let's put out our wings. Look there. Okay. And next auto. That works. Let's sweep them back while we're taxiing. Now, when I saw the most chop was when I was doing things like this, taxiing, or if I was in F2 view, following another low-flying aircraft, an aircraft that was taxiing. See, the sidewalk would jitter, those little tiles there, and I'm not seeing too much of that now. It's much smoother than it was. And I've also increased my settings a little bit. See, now we're seeing into the 50s while we're doing this. This is about optimal, actually, because that means I'm getting the maximum fidelity I can, still staying above 30 FPS, which is what YouTube's going to care about, because all my YouTube videos are captured and rendered at 30 FPS anyway. So, as long as we stay above that, that's okay. And remember, in another one of my videos where I tested low-performing hardware, I determined that DCS is completely playable as long as you stay above 30 FPS. I expect that when I take off, that we'll get back into the steady 60s because rendering all these textures on the ground is more demanding than just rendering clouds and stuff in the sky. I think that's the way to the runway over there. Alright, let's get situated here. More or less center line. That's good enough. Alright, so we want wings. It's out. Check our control surfaces. That looks okay. Drop flaps. Alright. Flap indicator's good. Let's run it up. No power. Nose wheel steering off. A little bit of rudder. We got a little bit of a crosswind today. Gentle pull. And we're up. Gear up. Flaps up. And more or less level to the end of the runway. And climb and roll out. Alright, so we're seeing dips. I just saw 48 there. It's the lowest dip I got. Let's see how it performs when we get up to altitude. So a little stutter there. I don't know if it's possible to completely get rid of them in DCS. Alright, so we'll go to cruise. Carrier. Alright. Feed brake out, throttle idle. Wings to auto. Flaps, gear.
One wire.
Well, not the best landing, but we're down. What I wanted to see here was on my previous video card, landing on the Forrestal was one of the most demanding things that would cause it to have issues. I would get sometimes a slideshow when I got here. But this looks pretty good. We're maintaining pretty solid in the high 50s, right up to 60, which is my frame limiter set right now. Looks okay. Now it's not completely stutter free. I don't know what it takes to make DCS completely stutter free all the time. I really don't. But it seems pretty solid so far. I'm looking around here, like if I quickly move my head and it has to re-render the whole scene, you see I get dips into the 40s, but that's okay. That's within tolerance, and I have the settings cranked up pretty high. This is about as good as you can make DCS look. Okay. Alright, well that's a good little test. Alright, so let's check some externals. Alright, so it's rendering a lot here. Pan around it. See a little bit of stutters as it has to load in new textures, I think. Once it does, it's smooth. See, so that, for whatever reason, DCS, the way it loads the textures is not very efficient. It goes to disk and then it's bleh, 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 bleh. So whatever else you got going on in your disk can affect that. But I've got this on my fastest NVMe drive that I have in my system, and it's pretty good overall. That's pretty good.
Two wire.
That's better than the last one, I guess. Alright, so it flaps up. That felt pretty smooth, frame rate wise. While I was playing, I wasn't really looking at the FPS counter. I'll watch it from the video. But felt pretty good. Here we are on the deck of the Abraham Lincoln, and things look fine. I'm not really seeing any FZ over here by like the tower stuff, so it's a lot of stuff to render. If you're gonna have problems, it's gonna be when you're looking at this. And this supercarrier, for whatever reason, renders easier than the Forrestal in my experience. I don't know why that is, but it's just easier. So I can tax around on the deck here. There's no one out here, so I can just pretty much do whatever I want. And even though there's all these like extra characters and things to render and animations from all the deck crew, hi guys, doesn't seem to be as demanding as the Forrestal for rendering in. So if we do the head snap, still get a little bit of lag. Then it kind of works itself out as the textures are loaded. So Yeah, not bad. I think you can game on a Radeon, I guess. No one buys them, but they work, more or less. There are some quirks and stuff. Maybe I'll do a video to discuss the differences that I found going from NVIDIA to AMD for my graphics card, but in general it'll get the job done, and at current prices I think it represents a good value. No one pays me to say this stuff. I just want to share what I know with the community in the hopes that it'll help someone else. There were some quirks with the card. Like for whatever reason, if I plug in HDMI to my monitor has 2 HDMI ports and 1 VGA port. If I plug in the HDMI directly, I can't see my BIOS. That's bizarre. I've tried it with 2 different Radeon cards, and I think it's just a monitoring compatibility issue. I don't know what resolution and refresh rate it's defaulting to, but my monitor doesn't like it. The workaround I found for that is to use an HDMI to VGA adapter for the times when I want to access my BIOS, which is not that often. So I just plug that in, and then it's able to communicate with my monitor, and I can see what I need to, change what I need to. Then I reconnect the HDMI cable directly. It's a little bit of a pain. I've never had that happen with an NVIDIA card. I've had it happen with 2 Radeon cards, so it's some kind of incompatibility issue between the Radeon and my particular monitor. Your mileage may vary. But aside from that weird little quirk, it's been okay other than that. It runs cool. They've got some pretty cool software, and maybe I'll do another video about that. But for this test, looks like it'll do just fine. Alright, thanks for watching.